Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton,
I'm Bob Scarborough.
and we are the FAIRtax Guys. Glad to see you still have your scrolling banner.
Hey, I just figured out how to keep my head from shining all over the. I just have to hold the
Yeah.
FAIRtax up above my head. It's not quite
Okay.
as shiny as it usually is for some reason. I don't know.
All right. I have not heard any more, but last I heard was that those scrolling banners like you've got, once the current inventory is exhausted at the FAIRtax store, they have not been able to find someone who can make those things that will not require a huge minimum order. Unfortunately, people are really not ordering those things very quickly. So we'll have to encourage folks to go to fairtaxstore.org and get one.
Yeah, absolutely.
While
And
you're there, also, let me remind you that the prebate cards, the 2026 prebate schedule has been determined. And the little prebate cards, the business card size things have been printed. It has the how much each household will get based on, the composition of that household, one parent, two parent, how many kids they've got. You can see what your prebate will be on a little business card size thing. And then they've got the palm cards, which are a
right,
larger size intended to be handed out to people who are trying to understand what the fair tax is all about. And you can order both the prebate cards and the palm cards at no charge from the fairtaxstore.org. It will not cost you a dime to buy the product. It will not cost you a dime to ship it. And I just got my 2026 prebate cards sent to me. And so
nice.
we are set to go. I suggest you do the same. Fairtaxstore.org. You can order the prebate cards. You can order the palm cards free of charge, free of shipping charge, absolutely free. The package shows up a week or so later. Now, of course,
Right.
while you're in there, you can look at some of the other stuff they've got as well, including if they've still got any scrolling banners, you can get one of those.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. You should get a scrolling banner just to, just to have it.
To take to a Wake Forest basketball game and get on TV.
Or
But
pay
I know you go to sleep before the basketball games even start because you do the morning show there.
Yeah, general. See, and you can protect your, be out by poolside and do like this and create an umbrella out of it.
Okay. Well, let's get going here on FairTax Power Radio. We are going to continue our series of questions and objections from the 15th chapter of the FairTax book momentarily, but we will start off. Congress.gov again. Let's keep an eye on what the Congress critters are trying to do to the tax code. Sometimes it's just makes you pull your hair out. Sometimes it'll make you laugh, and somebody will say, "What in the world are you doing?" But here's one. This is we'll start with HR 7286. This is from Harriet Hageman out in Wyoming to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to revoke tax exempt status of organizations that provide or provide funding for abortion. And again, political agenda pushing through the tax code. I don't like it when the left does it. I don't like it when the right does it. That is not the particular way that you're supposed to do that. If you want to revoke the tax exempt status of organizations that provide funding for abortion, just pass a law that does that. Don't mess with the tax code.
Right. And once something is accomplished, generally the fragments of that bill are still remain in the tax code.
Yeah, but then again, the underlying problem here is that we have tax exempt organizations to begin with. Now,
Right.
once the government grants you an exemption from the income tax, then they can control what you do, your fundraising activities. They can control what you say, like the fair tax groups that are tax exempt organizations cannot engage in any electioneering, stuff like that. There are restrictions on your free speech rights when you are a tax exempt organization. So what we need to do is get rid of the tax from which these organizations are exempt. And once that tax is gone, then there will be no such thing as a tax exempt organization because there's no tax to be exempt from. Your free speech rights are restored under the fair tax, and you don't have this kind of garbage on either side of the aisle.
Yeah. I mean, keep it out of the tax code. Stop.
Okay, let's keep going. This one's from the Senate side. This is S3754, Senator Jack Reed of, let's see, RI, that'd be Rhode Island. The Affordable Housing and Ownership Protection Act. of 2026. That's got a fancy little title in here. And this is one that you got to dig into the text to find out what it says. And this actually says this is a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code. Oh, mercy. Somebody, again, more political agenda pushing here, to impose a tax on the purchase of single-family homes by certain large investors and for other purposes. So this senator does not like certain large investors and wants to impose a tax on them if they keep buying single-family. That's crazy. Okay, your turn.
Nutty. Okay. Yeah, I just single family. I mean, we have an affordability crisis here in the triad in between Winston-Salem and Greensboro and High Point. Growth is outpacing numbers of homes available, which of course makes cost of home ownership go up. They just reassessed everybody's taxes, property taxes. So we've got this is a challenge. It says challenge everywhere. So, but don't put all this in the tax code. And of course, the FAIRtax gets rid of the tax code altogether. So all of these things that are hanging out there in the tax code, what happens to them when the Internal Revenue Service and the income tax goes away?
Then if they want to give tax, or if they want to give breaks or assistance to certain groups of people, just pass a bill that does that. Okay, let's go on. Another one from the Senate side. This is S 3722 from Senator Cortez Masto in Nevada. This is the Lowering Home Energy Costs Act. Now, lowering home energy costs sounds like a pretty good idea, but they want to try to do this with the tax code to amend the Internal Revenue Code to restore and extend certain tax credits to incentivize energy efficiency.
Hasn't that been done? I mean, aren't there already incentives for things like that? Like get a new refrigerator or put solar in or
whatever. But that's it again. The government is trying to control people's behavior, or at least influence the decisions they make by their goal. Well, we'll give you a tax break if you'll do what we would really like you to do. So, of course, I don't see why you need to incentivize energy efficiency with the tax code. If you're energy efficient, that lowers your bill. That should be sufficient, incentivization, if that's a word, for people to engage in energy efficient behavior, because it doesn't cost them as much when you do that.
You save energy, you turn the heat down a little bit, and put a jacket on.
Okay, now this next one, this has got to be my favorite bill title of all times I've ever seen. This is H.R. 7245, the Limber Timber Act of 2026. I read you. This is Limber Timber, Limber, the Limber Timber Act of 2026. Representative Janelle Bynum of Oregon.
She's been hard at work. She's got 2 on the show for the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. The Limber Timber Act is a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to establish the Mass Timber Plant Investment Credit, the Mass Timber Workforce Development Credit, and the Mass Timber Construction Credit. And if you want to know what LIMBER stands for, that's the Leveraging Investment in Mass Building and Employment with Renewable Timber Act. That's right. Oh mercy! That I got to have some cheer line here. But that's I don't know who writes the names of these things. Some staffer ought to get a raise for that one.
That's right. I would think that artificial intelligence, put something in one of the AI devices, would come up with a creative name for this and that. That would be, maybe we'll do that for, for a couple of the really choice ones.
Of course, a lot of times the title of the bill has nothing to do with what it actually does.
That's true.
Whatever. Okay, one more. H.R. 7230, Representative, this is from up your way, Greg Murphy of North Carolina, is proposing the Buying American Cotton Act of 2020. They still grow cotton up there in North Carolina?
Eastern North Carolina, yeah.
Oh, where they got the good barbecue. Okay, this is to amend the Internal Revenue Code to establish a domestic cotton consumption credit.
Domestic cotton consumption.
A domestic cotton consumption credit. So I guess I thought all the textile mills up there in North Carolina and Virginia and South Carolina, they've all moved overseas, have they not?
Sure, I wear cotton, but I've never consumed it. Unless
Okay.
somebody stuffed a sock in my mouth for some reason.
Don't tempt me. Okay, this is the domestic cotton consumption credit. Representative Greg Murphy in North Carolina wants that one, so there we go. I don't know what else you can say about that one. So you know that guy better than I do.
Yeah, and I know very little about it. Sounds like a pretty good deal, but again, let's make a law like Bob P said a minute ago. Let's just take it through the debate process and don't run it through the tax code, because eventually the tax code won't be there for you to do this in.
Hopefully we can get rid of the entire thing with all of the specialized credits and deductions and incentives that the government is trying to put on us to do what they want us to do. Get rid of all that garbage and replace it with the fair tax. Okay, let's see. Let's check my timer. How much time we got left? Oh, okay, about the same as last week. 16 and a half minutes to get into the back of the fair tax book again. Talking about the original white one that Boortz and Linder wrote. It came out. It's amazing. This thing came out in 2005. I mean, 21 years ago. This thing's over 20 years old, and we still don't have the fair tax. So we need to work on this one. So let's go to work on this one. Okay. You say the fair tax will replace the alternative minimum tax. What's that all about? Wake up.
Yeah. Oh, well,
I've asked you a question.
I'm glad you asked. It's a tax monster isn't put out of misery, and soon we're going to nail more and more hardworking Americans as the years go by. The alternative minimum tax was introduced in 1969 as a spite tax. It seems that some politicians didn't like the fact just a few years earlier, 150,000 high achieving individuals rudely took advantage of the perfectly legal deductions and credits available to them and paid no federal income tax.
Oh, mercy.
No, can't let that happen. Not at all. Everybody's got to pay.
You write all these deductions and credits into the bill, and then when people use them, they say, wait a minute, you can't do that.
Yeah. Some of the ones like we just discussed in Congress.gov. Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, got to pay taxes, even when the law says you don't owe any, unless, of course, you're poor. So the alternative minimum tax was passed to force a second calculation of your earnings and deductions. How does that work? If a taxpayer's deductions exceed a certain percentage of their gross income, they lose deductions. That'll teach them a spite tax.
That's a crazy system. Why do we, the people, allow that to continue?
That's crazy, isn't it? It's just insane.
Yeah, but what's the really bad part here?
Well,
the AMT was never indexed to inflation. So
yeah.
as inflation, rises, makes everybody's income go up that way, the trigger for triggering the alternative minimum tax stays the same. So more and more people are going to be hit by this thing that were not really the intended targets when they created it.
Right. That's right. And the challenge is we're stuck in the middle. We don't have any alternative when we do our taxes. We have to pass it through this AMT filter, if you will.
Yeah. Well, this looks like Russell Long's favorite saying here: "Don't tax him, don't tax me, tax the guy behind the tree."
That's right.
A tax is a good tax is one that I don't have to pay that somebody else does, which is we've got thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pages of tax code that are trying to do just that. And get with all the deductions and all the credits, all the loopholes that's in the current tax code that all go away with the fair tax. By the way, that needs to happen.
That's right. And Democrats and Republicans have been trying to figure out a way to abolish the alternative minimum tax. And this book was written back in the early to mid 2000s.
2005.
Here we are. a decade or give or take better. And it's still there. So they haven't done really a whole lot to move forward on that. They know the reaction they will face when their middle income constituents determine that they are the fat cats.
Mm-hmm.
The elimination of the alternative minimum tax is going to cost about 700 billion in revenues over 10 years. I wonder if that's an accurate number considering that
probably was when the book was written.
Yeah. FAIRtax solves the problem overnight.
That it does. Well, I got another question for you here, Kimosabe.
Yes, sir.
If the FAIRtax is such a great idea, how come it hasn't been tried anywhere?
Here's something else that no other foreign government has ever tried, relying exclusively on an income and payroll tax for funding essential government operations. We are not a country that waits for others to try and perfect something before we will give it a try. In fact, the world's 10th and 15th largest economies do pretty much what we are proposing. What are those economies? Spain, Italy? Nope. Texas and Florida. The United States has always been a world leader, so let's not be afraid to lead here as well. Again, Texas and Florida have no income tax.
Yes, that's one of the reasons why I live here.
Yes, sir. So why is it possible to make this the law of the land at the federal level?
So, as I mentioned, there are a couple of states. Unfortunately, Florida is not one of them. Our neighbor to the immediate north, Georgia, is one of them. And you go over one more, Alabama as well. Georgia and Alabama are both they have got legislative proposals to abolish their state income taxes and replace their state income taxes with a state level consumption tax modeled on the FAIRtax. Yes. I mean, completely with the inclusivity and especially with the prebate. That is what really makes the FAIRtax sing compared to other sales taxes that people know about, is that you pay the tax on every retail purchase, but you get back in the prebate, you are given back all the tax you pay on your spending up to the poverty level. When the assumption there, of course, is that you're going to buy milk and eggs before you spend money on a vacation to Hawaii. So you will buy your basic necessities first. And so those first, I think it's $43,000. I got my prebate cards and they're in the other room, but it's in the neighborhood of $43,000 is how much a family of four can spend tax free, that they will get the tax they pay on their first $43,000 worth of spending refunded to them in the prebate. Now, somebody watching here can probably put the exact figure in the comments, and I'm doing that off the top of my head, so I may be off a little bit here, but that's kind of the ballpark of how much a family of four is allowed to spend tax-free. And of course, the idea of trying to figure out, well, has your spending reached that level yet? Well, no. If it hasn't, then we're just not going to charge you the tax. Oh, but as soon as it does, we will. That would be a logistical nightmare. So all they do is you will pay the tax at the cash register every time you buy something. But again, you get the tax you pay on your basic necessity spending refunded to you, so it does not come out of your pocket until you've actually taken care of your I say this all the time, feed your family before you feed the government with the FAIRtax. And it's the other way around with the income tax, because they get their pound of flesh before you get your paycheck. So you pay Uncle Sam before you can buy milk for the baby or bread for your family and stuff like that. It's backwards. It's wrong. We need to get rid of the wrong system and replace it with the right one.
Absolutely. Just for the record, these federal poverty level guides were effective on January 13th. And it's $15,960 for one person, $33,000 for a four-person family. And the guidelines are published in the Federal Register, and you can just use your favorite search engine. And
okay, that four-person family is a parent and three dependents, because I think it's higher if you got two adults and two kids, four people that way.
It's showing just four people. It doesn't split it at four.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd have to go in the other room to get my prebate card, and you can look that up. I'm pretty sure that because it does make a difference between single parent and double parent homes.
Mhm.
And we'll dig that up and come up with those figures a bit later. But let me see. Speaking of the prebate, why don't you just exempt certain items like food and medicine and clothing? Wouldn't that be an easier way? And the answer is no, it's
Well,
not.
you'll be back to Congress to determine what that is, and then all of a sudden, special interests would be back in line to make sure that their special interest got into the mix. The
Well,
prebate,
it's clearly understood here. Again, we're quoting from the FAIRtax book here. It's clearly understood the American people would reject any idea for tax reform if that idea put an additional burden of taxation on our nation's low and middle income families. The idea of a national retail sales tax would not get into the ballpark, let alone to first base, if it involved requiring our poor families to give up 23 cents out of every dollar they spent. That is why the prebate was created. It ensures that nobody in America, from the very poor to the very rich, nobody, again, the fair tax treats everybody the same, whether your last name is Trump or something else that doesn't make as much money as he does. That these people would end up paying a sales tax on their basic necessities of life. We've got to make sure that that does not happen. So exempting those basic necessities from the fair tax is a bad idea simply because you do not want to put government bureaucrats in charge of deciding what a basic necessity is.
right? And then you'd have the lobbyists in there trying to get their 2 cents in and that's what we're trying to avoid is more of that type of activity.
And again, quoting from the book here, studies have shown that high income earners spend proportionately more on items that might be described as basic necessities. I mean, high income people buy more food, they buy more clothing, they buy more stuff like that. So, is it fair to allow a multimillionaire to spend $20,000 on food for a large wedding reception in his estate and not pay any tax on it? The answer to that's probably not. So if you try to put controls in place that would bring the sales tax into play when spending reached a certain limit, you'd be adding a completely unnecessary level of bureaucracy and regulation that could easily be circumvented by a clever party giver. So by the same token, exempting certain items such as food and prescription drugs would again open the door to an entire battalion of lobbyists, and we look at their work every week here on Congress.gov, to argue that their part of the industry represents a clearly an essential product. Healthcare would come first, then food, then prescription drugs, and then real estate. And you see where this is going. Half of the economy would soon be exempted as essential, and that means that the tax rate would have to be astronomically higher on everything else. So it's just a whole lot nicer if you just tax every retail purchase, regardless of how much money you make, regardless of what you're buying. You tax every retail purchase the same way. You refund the tax you pay on your basic necessities. That way you don't hurt the lower income people. And that way that the upper income people who spend a lot more than just a basic level on these basic necessity items like food and clothing would start paying the tax as their spending increases. And you don't need a government bureaucrat telling you what a basic necessity is. And it's like an autopilot system. You know,
Right.
you take off and you turn on the autopilot and you sit there, and then when you get to your destination, the pilots take over and land the plane. The whole thing is just automated like that, and the fair tax is like that. And it's perfectly fair to everybody, regardless of what you buy, regardless of how much money you got, period, end of discussion. Mm.
And it's as simple as it can be, and you get to keep the government further out of the way in your decision making, and think about the incentive to do this, to bring the fair tax to reality in terms of instant raise. You get no federal income tax taken out, no payroll tax taken out of your paycheck. You got an instant raise right there. And then based on the size of your family, you get the prebate every month ahead of your purchasing, so you can spend that money on what you consider to be essential. Not
and another point here: the prebate is not an entitlement.
no
Any more so than the tax refund you get from the IRS today is not an entitlement. when you pay more taxes than you owe, you get your change back. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what's going to happen with the fair tax, because you do not owe any fair tax on your spending up the poverty level, but trying to logistically separate that out is just not going to work. So you pay it at the cash register, you get it back into prebate so it doesn't come out of your own pocket. Elegantly simple and elegantly efficient. I mean, that works.
Without a doubt. Okay, I got something for you. I got a question for you.
Okay, we got about 2.5 minutes left.
What about
So
state sales taxes and state payroll taxes? States.
Well, wait a minute. Now you're going to make me go back and open up my book, because I thought we were going to be running out. Tell you what, let me defer on that one until next time,
It's fine.
because we will continue our discussion here on the various stuff that the Boortz and Linder book addresses in chapter 15 of all of the objections and questions that will be raised, both by people that are trying to dishonestly shoot the fair tax down, and both by people who honestly don't understand how it works. So that's really good. But we got about a couple minutes left. We will remind everybody again, as we did at the beginning of this the program here, to go, if you can, to FAIRtaxStore.org. You can pick up your palm cards. You can pick up your prebate cards free of charge. The 2026 prebate cards are in. Everybody's got those numbers calculated. And now I will have to go look at it, because I'm positive that in the prebate calculations, it makes a difference between households that have a single parent and two parents, two adults versus one adult. Because the adults get a more of a break in the family consumption allowance than the
Single
dependent would.
they've got split single adult with 1, 2, 3 dependents, and then married couple.
That's it.
Yeah, with 1, 2, or 3 dependents is as far as it calculates out on the card.
Okay.
Go to FAIRtaxStore.org and click on the printed materials section. Add a pack of 50 cards for the prebate, and add a pack of 50 cards for the palm card that you can hand out. Especially critical because we're at the midterms. Your candidates that you get to vote on here, either in the primaries or in the general election, they need to know about the fair tax.
Yep.
They don't.
And at FAIRtax.org, not FAIRtax Store, but just FAIRtax.org, you can go there and download and print a copy of the Fair Tax Candidate Pledge. Take that to your candidate's town hall meeting and see if they can. They would sign that. We have still got to get Kat Kamek back aboard, and you got to get Virginia Fox back aboard up there. So hopefully we can get that going as we get the midterms. And that is all she wrote for this edition of Fair Taxpayer Radio. We're flat out of time again. Till we meet again, same time, same channel. I'm Bob Paxton.
I'm Bob Scarborough.
We are the FAIRtax Guys, providing you the fair tax is the only truly fair tax. And once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
So what do you need from me to get these taxes collected?
Glad you asked, because there is a fair amount of information you need to be aware of.
That's your tax plan?
Oh, no, this is just the revisions for this year's tax plan. What I need from you is you need to keep track of all of your income, as well as any taxes that you've already paid. Also, any gifts that you received or gifts you've given to churches or charities or individuals throughout the entire year. Do you do any side jobs?
Every now and again.
Great, because there's some more information about that right here. Everything you need to know right here. So just simply compile that, send it in to us. Be careful, make sure there's no mistakes. If we do find mistakes were made, we can fine you or, throw you in jail. So you might want to be aware of that.
And what do you need from me?
As an individual, nothing. As a business owner, or if you're doing side jobs, yes, you would have to collect taxes on that, but, well, it's all right here.
Can I get a copy of that?